We'll stand. We'll call this council meeting to order. At this time, we have a word of silence. Thank you. I would ask that Councilman Greg Hampton, if he would lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening to everyone, and welcome to Georgetown City Council meeting for Monday, July the 14th, 2025. We're here to conduct business for the city of Georgetown. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Wilkins-Brent?
Here.
Mr. Crisp?
Here.
Mrs. Hambrick? Present. Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Minky?
Present.
Mrs. Leslie Mitchell?
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Sames?
Here.
Mr. Stone?
Here.
Thank you. Item number 3, approval of minutes. You all should receive those. At this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Ms. Brent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Ms. Hambrick. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you. Item 4, check registry, receipt for the check registry. If you have received that by electronic, please raise your hand. Thank you. Let the record reflect that all have received. Event application, Georgetown College Freshman Move-In Day.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, the magical time of year is once again upon us for freshman move-in. We have our incoming first years arriving on campus August the 16th on a Saturday. We have submitted an event application request for street closures of College Street from Military to Mulberry, then Mulberry to Jackson, and then part of Jackson Street from the Mulberry intersection to the front of our South Campus quad. This is just to facilitate the smooth, efficient move-in for our first years. We anticipate, hopefully, everything going smoothly. Hopefully. But the routes is basically the same protocol that we followed last year. The only thing that we are requesting is barricades from the city.
All right, you have heard the request. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Ms. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second made by Mr. Stone. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Thank you, sir,
Thank you, sir.
very much. At this time, item number 6 is public comments. I would ask that if you, at that time, public comments, that you will come to the podium. Please, for the record, state your name and what you want to talk about or what you want to address with the council. Again, we'll remind you that we will have 4 minutes to address this council. Madam Clerk, keep the time. At the 3-minute mark, she will let you know. And then you have 1 minute, please, to finish up your thought. And then we will proceed on. That way we can be more respectful for everyone who have an opportunity to speak in front of this council. First, Ms. Rebecca Johnson on backyard chickens.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Well, I'm familiar with this lectern. I've never stood up here to talk about chickens, but honestly, I didn't come here tonight to champion the chicken issue, but I think I'm probably a little bit late to the conversation. I'm sorry, I need to state for the record, Rebecca Johnson, and I do want to talk about the backyard chickens issue. So as I was saying, I think I'm a little bit late to the conversation. I think maybe the council has been talking about this. Some residents have been coming to talk about this in the past few months, and somehow busy with fiscal court and other courthouse matters, I missed that ongoing issue. But I just thought I might have some comments that might be relevant to this issue, to this discussion. And gosh, I was sitting here debating this. I'm a little bit conflicted, but I'm going to make it admission on public record. I was the owner of chickens about 5 years ago. I was a renter in city limits. I would have told you then what I will tell you now. I was fully of the belief, in good faith, that chickens were allowed by Georgetown City Ordinance. I would have told you, I can show you on paper, I have the ordinance. Apparently, I was mistaken. So I'll just leave it at that. But I do want to tell you about my experience. I'll make my comments quick. I was then, as I am now, very interested in eating whole food, eating products from animals that are fed organically. I believe it's more healthy, and what I did then, which I might like to have the right to do now as a property owner who owns property within Georgetown city limits, would be able to have a small number of chickens, to feed them grass and let them eat the insects in my backyard and keep them carefully contained in a coop, as I did then. If my chickens had ever gotten loose, Sanja would have probably made a phone call, because I lived in an apartment directly across from the county attorney's office. But my chickens, my 6 chickens, never got loose. I had what you would call a portable coop, and I would turn it about a quarter turn every day or two. I had a fixed of my own design, a portable run made out of lightweight plastic. It's like chicken wire, but made out of plastic with PVC pipe. I would turn that run. I would give my chickens plenty of space to eat the grass, mow the grass for me. I didn't have to buy a lawnmower and mow the yard of my rented space. Because I had a small number of chickens.
That's 3 minutes.
Thank you, one more minute. I didn't have a problem with waste removal because of the small number and because of moving them around the yard. So there was no issue with smell, waste removal. I kept them properly contained. And every day they produced 6 eggs or 5. I had 1 slacker, but I shared them with all my friends, neighbors, family. And I'd like to see Georgetown City property owners be able to keep that right to potentially do that. I've read the full ordinance now, the one that actually is being proposed. And it seems to have some really reasonable provisions that would be there in case the owners were not responsible. And just one more comment, I consider myself not a farmer, but a pet owner of chickens that I cared for. They were affectionate with me as I was with them, but in my perspective, the animals that I took time and energy and some expense to feed, they gave me something back for that. And I appreciated that, and I'd like to be able to retain those rights. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next, Mr. Roy Cornett. Well, I'm trying to read you right here, but I'm gonna take a stab at it. I'm gonna say horses, maybe?
There you go.
All right.
I've not read though. Roy Cornett.
Excuse me, Roy Cornett, excuse
Several
me.
properties here in town. Somebody mentioned to me there's a little bit of question about our horses are allowed in the city. That's important to me. Most of you know I'm a horseback rider. I own 55 acres out here, the Evans Farm that's in the city. And is there an ordinance that's either in place or fixing to be in place that says I can't have horses on my 55 acres in town? And the other thing I want to raise up is years ago when the carriages used to be in downtown Lexington, they stabled those horses right there on Saunier Avenue behind the Opera House. And so are we talking about a rule here that would be precluding that sort of thing? That's the only question I have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cornett, and forgive me for misplacing, calling your Ray instead of Roy. Thank you. Mr. Dan Holman, is it Cemetery?
Right.
Thank you.
Dan Holman, Georgetown. I guess I had 4 things I wanted to mention about tonight, so I have 4 minutes. But I think it'll be less than 4 minutes, or 1 minute for some of them. Let's see. So regarding the chicken issue, yeah, I think, I mean, from just a citizen who is interested in chickens and things like that, and I've looked at this ordinance and not a deep dive into it, but it seems, I support it. And I'd like to maybe one day have it on my property. So I think it's something worth trying, but nevertheless, there's, whatever concerns there are, such as enforcement and all that, should just be stated for the record. And if there's tweaks that need to be made before the next reading next time, go ahead and do them. Let's see, so another issue, so then the rest of these kind of involve planning and zoning in general. So just one brief thing, there was an ethics issue that I just came across because I was curious what the ethics committee meets about, so I did an open records request and got back all these cryptic things that made no sense. And so I did more records requests and then it made more sense. So that's an interesting issue. It involves a city council member who's no longer on the council, and it's a year ago, and it involves the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think it's something that's worth public conversation about, but there's not time to, I'll email you all about that probably, or not, I probably will. And then also related to, so planning and zoning, this was something that didn't make me feel comfortable about either the city council or planning and zoning. But so related to the issue that is a second reading tonight, which is the sort of somewhat extensive zoning changes, which seem overall to probably be good. And they probably are in line with our comprehensive plan. I, for one, don't fully think that the comprehensive planning process last year was like the best one ever, just in terms of transparency and openness and stakeholder involvement. But probably, I kind of think probably these are good changes. However, there's clearly from the last meeting, you all had a lot of good questions, and just it was kind of clear there wasn't, maybe more education is needed about this, more conversation, and that instead of just, and that this is an opportunity for the council to kind of take a lead on planning issues and city planning issues, where a lot of citizens in town, I think that the planning commission takes the lead and developers do what they want. And then by the time it gets here, it's just rubber stamping. And some people think you all should step up. I think this has been publicly talked about. You all should have an opportunity to kind of provide some oversight. So this is an issue probably, but based on your all's conversation last night, and even the mayor ended that conversation by saying he could see this was an issue that maybe needed more steps and a slower discussion. I agree with that. So probably don't approve this tonight, but have some, like for example, I think Holden and them could come back on a regular basis and give more presentations. Like what is a PUD? Like a lot of these involve PUDs. I don't fully understand PUD. Apparently the minimum lot size of that is undefined, so it could even be a very small area. Okay, so I think more collaboration is needed from them.
That's 3 minutes.
That's 3. And then for 1 minute, the main issue is, so the cemetery finally made it into the newspaper. I didn't have anything to do with it that I know about recently. So the cemetery expansion, every year for the last several years, there's a budget line item, expand the cemetery, but then nothing ever gets talked about it, and it always gets carried over to next year. So this is an important issue that I hope that we can all take seriously. There's a lot of, expanding the cemetery involves Suffaletta Park, it involves the Housing Authority, and it involves the Mount Vernon neighborhood, it involves the Scroggins Park residents, and it involves this 40 acres, and people should pay attention to this, of city-owned land that's all adjacent to this. So really what we need, and Mayor Jenkins and Devin mentioned, we need stakeholder meetings and public engagement about the cemetery expansion. I'm not 100% convinced they're going to do that, but I hope they do. I think that we need a small area plan for the cemetery, and this might be an option to bring
That's 4 minutes.
some trust with planning and zoning. They could maybe manage a small area plan conversation about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. All right. Item number 7 is mayor comments. Got a couple of things I want to talk about before we get back on the agenda. First of all, I want to express my appreciation to this council. The budget is done. And now we take the items that we put on the budget, that we budget for, that we are going to take those and move it forward. I, for one, want to thank, first of all, my directors and all of them who have put time in. Stacy, as always, who led the charge on this, and Devin and Emily and the rest of our staff. Because, tell you what, to put something together where everybody's going to be happy doesn't always work. But the fact that we had buy-in from council members as well as listen to people in the community, listen to my directors and so on, and listen to staff, we were able to put together, I think, a budget package that I think was better. I came in 2 or 3 years ago, we had some issues to go through, and we have kind of worked through those, and I think this is one of the lowest budget that we had to pass as for being, because of a project we were doing. But I just want to thank you all for the support of that. I think we can move forward. We're going to address a lot of issues that has been on the table for a long period of time. We've added some headcount to our staffing, which will hopefully make our providing service to the citizens of this community in a way that will be good for us, everything. So, again, I want to thank you all again for the support with that going forward, and let's be able to get to work. Next, also, the Fire Station Training Center. I don't know if most of y'all were here on the 30th when we did that. That was a kind of a project that, I can put something ahead and say that, you know what, this is one project that actually government got done in a short period of time. And that's something I have to give credit to you all, and also to Chief Thompson and Chief Johnson and the whole fire department, and them coming together and do this. This was something outside the box. Mm-hmm. And he came and brought this to us and say, this is something we're going to have that I think will help this fire department be better, get good people, and retain good people. And again, we always want to get the best for this community. And again, council, thank you all for stepping up and moving this forward, because it was something we needed to do. You should have received an email from Devin. We're talking about the development impact fee discussion. I see it's still on here a little bit, but just give you an update. We're having a work session, which will be the 23rd of July here, and it will be at, it's at 5 o'clock here, and it will be another opportunity. It will be videoed, so if you can't be here, you'll be able to listen in. We will have the consultant here. There will be other opportunity for some questions and answers going forward. So stay tuned for that. When it gets close to that, we'll get you an agenda as to what's going to be talked about in detail. So once again, that's coming. Just for heads up, we're, project, progress. We're talking about roads. And as you know, I mentioned this earlier, that they're going to be doing a project downtown where they're going to be paving downtown on US 25, starting with, I believe, out there next to subdivision right before Fat Cats, and moving through town all the way through to the water tower. So when that gets closer, we're going to give you all some information, and we'll try to get this on our media outlets so people know at that time what's going on. So stay tuned for that as it comes up. Some council requests. I want to bring some updates. As for the street paving, I think Councilman Minke asked about that. We're still working on the getting that together. We are going a study that we're going to have done, and once we get that done, Councilman Minke, we're going to be able to, I believe, and correct me, Eddie, if I'm wrong with this, is that they actually do a scan of the roads, and they scan it to see, and they tell how old roads are and so on. And so if you want to come up and kind of tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The way it works is a vehicle is outfitted with some electronic equipment that basically sends a signal as they drive through all the roads all over town, and it gives you a measurement, like a density measurement of the condition of the road, and spits out a number, and it ranks the roads. The lower the number, the more work needs to be done on it, and you use that as a tool to select the roads that need to be paved.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you. Okay, so once we get that study done and get that information back, we'll have some data to be able to support that. Also, there was a request to have code enforcement to do a presentation, and we're going to have that for August meeting. That's coming up. So, unless I forgot anything else, I may have to come back into that. One more, you have the executive order in front of you, Board adjustment for appointment for Miss Virginia Teague. We sent you the background on her, and so at this time, I will entertain a motion to accept this appointment.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Ms. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second made by Mr. Chris. Are there any other questions and/or comments? All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you, council, very much. All right. Moving on to item 8, we have council committee reports. We have, excuse me, I'm going to jump in. Chief Thompson, if you would come on up. Chief Thompson wants to make an announcement at this time, so.
Mayor, council, it's nothing about chickens. So this is hard to put into words and even harder to say, but I am announcing my retirement from the Georgetown Fire Department. Effective July 31st. I've had an amazing career with the city of Georgetown, but inevitably, we all must leave at some point. We've had tremendous leadership with Assistant Chief Seth Johnson, and I know that he, Assistant Chief Cam Johnson, and whoever else steps into leadership will continue to move this department forward. If I had 1 ounce of concern with the leadership and the future of this department, with them at the helm, I would not be leaving. Having them in place makes it easier for me to go. I say easier, but it doesn't mean this was an easy decision. I started working for the city of Georgetown in May of 2000. This was before many of the firefighters who work for me now were born. I was a few weeks shy of turning 21 when I started Public Works. My time there taught me about hard work, and nothing worthwhile comes easy. It was at a city picnic in the summer of 2004 that I approached Chief Bruin and talked about what it would take to become a firefighter. I wanted to do something different with my life, and I felt that the fire service would be a good fit. I started my career as a probationary firefighter in January 2005, but I didn't realize then how much of a blessing the next 20 years of my life would be. The first time I put on my uniform, I remember the pride that I felt. I still feel that pride today. I never thought I'd be the chief of this department. I was hoping by the time that I retired that I could end up being the fire marshal, but things worked out differently. I'm proud of the work that we've accomplished over the last 3 years. It was a time of transition where a lot of people were retiring, and there was a lot of change. I wrote down the people that I had the opportunity to promote in the last 3 years, and it's every officer and chief officer in our fire department except for 5 of the 12 captains. We've hired 14 of the 33 firefighter positions that we have, and 10 more on the way this fall. We've done so much in a short time, and when I say us, it wasn't just me, it was you all, it was CAO Golden, it was everybody, our fire department, just everybody within the city, so I'm just very appreciative of that. We have a new training center, we have 3 new engineer positions, we have an entirely new fleet of apparatus coming next spring, we have cancer screenings for our firefighters and our retirees. We had the most applications ever in this last process, with over 200. And most importantly for Georgetown, we have our first blueprints for a new station being drawn up since 1996, and our first additional firefighter since 2007 with the 3 that were approved in this budget. Much has been done, but there's still much left to do. And as I near the end of my time at the city and as the chief of this department, I can't help but think about the future. I know it's bright. I'm not concerned about who finishes the projects we have begun, but that they have started in the first place. We have tremendous momentum, and I know that we have the people in positions that can cross the finish line, and I'll be their biggest cheerleader. I learned a long time ago not to take this job for granted. Before you know it, it is over. Enjoy each day and understand how blessed we are to do this profession. I've had the opportunity to work with countless people I care deeply about, not only within the department, but within the city. Mayor Varney hired me, or for Mayor Tingle Sames. Mayor Prather gave me the opportunity to be chief, and Mayor Jenkins, you and the council have supported me wholeheartedly. I've told people, and I've worked with dozens and dozens of council members over this 25 years. I told people that I would rather leave when my folks wanted me to stay than stay when they wanted me to leave, and I hope that is the case today. To my men and women, thank you for what you do each day for this amazing community, and stay safe.
Chief Thompson, of course, I was with him this afternoon. He had to tell his troops that. And I'm tell you what, the time that I've been working with you, you have been nothing but a champion for the Georgetown City Fire Department. You advocated for things that you thought that was needed to make the job, to provide service for people on their worst days. And you have not failed in doing that. Your leadership has been absolutely spot on, and I want to tell you that I appreciate what you have done. Going forward there, keeping it that we're going to be looking internally to find a replacement for you, because I think that's important that we have continuity with that. I am confident that the people that you have trained will be able to carry us forward going forward. And I wish you nothing but best in your retirement and going forward. But again, the city of Georgetown thanks you very, very, very much for your service. Thank you again.
Sir.
All right. Next, now we have council committee reports. We have police. Mr. Minke?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The Police Committee met with a special meeting on Wednesday, July the 9th. Our normally scheduled meeting on the Monday prior had to be canceled due to unforeseen quorum issues. So thankfully, everybody's safe now, and we were able to have that meeting. Everybody was present on our special meeting. Some of the things that we covered during that meeting, staffing is always one of the issues that we try and make sure that we're staying on top of. And so the chief reported the current staffing level of 69 officers. We've got three officers that are scheduled for graduation from the academy in August. And basically, we have 4 candidates that are in the pool currently going through evaluations for the next round. And so the chief and his staff are keeping up with and trying to increase their numbers as we've had other retirements and things like that from the police department. One of the things that's on our agenda tonight that we discussed and supported after the discussion was the transition of 2 part-time police officers into a full-time police officer. Based on the circumstances, it just made a lot of sense. And so Councilman Karen and I both are promoting that request tonight later in the agenda. Also, part of our agenda is with a couple different new legislative activities that take effect or have already taken effect now with the legislature. During this last session, we had a conversation about House Bill 520, which has to do with the public records and a change in the definition. One of the things I think was really important is that we have that conversation of what that change really does mean and how it will be interpreted for the police department as well as 911, so that everybody's clear on how to make those determinations for the instances when there's an ongoing investigation where disclosure of certain facts could impede that
investigation. So it's a temporary hold on that information. The other one, with the discussion that we've already had for Senate Bill 63 with the UTV legislation that was passed, and we've had some conversation of that. I thought it was important for us to have that conversation with the police department. As in always, obviously, they're going to do whatever we determine best for the city. But in terms of some of the impacts that they anticipate, based on a request to potentially change or allow for those UTVs within city limits, typically they are loud. And when you look at statistics around accidents and things like that, those types of vehicles would be more prevalent, kind of like motorcycles as well. So there was a request out of that for some additional information about surrounding states that already have this provision in place, what kind of accidents they're seeing in that. And so we had some conversation around that, as well as kind of the real impetus of why we would potentially have this. If you think about from the UTV perspective, it's typically an ecotourism kind of thing, and it's being able to legally get from a parking area or a rental facility into a trailhead to be able to do the recreation that you're planning to do. And so, again, that's kind of the presence for that. Here we really don't have anything here. So again, just trying to put things in perspective and get some feedback from the police department. The other thing that we touched on, and today, if you had the opportunity, the police department was hosting the Axon Tech Day at the police department, where they were featuring a lot of the new technology that's out there and that they're beginning to incorporate to help with their tools in their tool bag. Everything from drones to virtual reality headsets, the new technology for tasers and things like that. So we talked about what all was going to be there today, and hopefully folks had a chance to get there. The other thing that was neat is the way they planned all this, that it also coincided with the beginning of the Junior Police Academy, which is this week. And so our candidates for that class were able to participate fully in this and see the new technology that's in law enforcement, and hopefully those young folks will take a look at a profession in policing as a result of participation during this week of the Junior Police Academy. And I'll leave it at that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Mickey. Next, we have the fire, and I think Councilman Crisp has some information to share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The Fire Committee met on June 26, 2025 at the Georgetown Fire Department Training Center. The Assistant Fire Chief Cam Johnson presented a request from Council Member Tingle Sames to consider waiving burn permit fees for nonprofit organizations. The committee reviewed the current ordinance and permit process. Discussion was held on the potential benefits of amending the ordinance. I asked the mayor to refer the matter to the city attorney for legal review and ordinance drafting. Assistant Chief Johnson also introduced the concept of a certification program for recovery residences operating within the city limits. This type of program aims to promote safe and effective environments for individuals recovering from substance abuse. No formal action was taken, but the committee acknowledged the importance of addressing this issue in tandem with state law. The Fire Committee supported a request from the Code Enforcement Board to amend its meeting schedule from monthly to quarterly with special meetings needed, and the first reading of that amendment is going to be this evening. Finance Director Stacy Clark and Chief Thompson reviewed the next steps for acquiring the new ladder truck that has been approved in the budget, And Chief Thompson reported that 201 applications have been received for 8 open positions with the department, and the application period closed on June 30th. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And of course, the request that in the committee to have our city attorney to look in that, and which is what she's doing now to get more information, and we'll bring you some information soon. All right, next, we're going to kind of switch the order of the agenda. We're going to go with, on item 15 on the finance, we're going to look at B and C, which is the municipal order for City Hall change order number 8 and municipal order change number 9. Now, we have sent you, Devin sent you some information, I believe in your packet, where you got to see the presentation, and they are here tonight, and they're going to talk about this, as you can see on the screen, some information pertaining to that. So at this time, I would have you all to come up.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Just a reminder, Elizabeth Hunt with Lord X Sargent. I know I've been in front of you guys a lot. Also have, go ahead. And we also have some other members of our design and construction team as well, in case there are some additional questions. So just to give sort of brief overview of where the project is, and then also loop in the proposed change orders for tonight. Going to the next slide. Just a project recap. Again, lots of work has gone into this, right? There have been 131 plus questions asked of different things. We have 178 submittals that we have reviewed. Everything is moving along. We do not have any new supplemental instructions or bulletins that have been posted since the last time we were in front of you, so nothing there has changed. Next slide. Recap of where we are to changes to the scope of work. So we've had a number of change orders through number 7 that have been in front of you previously. Tonight we have change order 8, which is revisions made to clarify or simplify construction, which with some changes to ceilings in the ground floor, rerouting of ductwork, removal of electrical floor boxes and putting outlets in the wall instead. So lots of savings there, and then also to reduce trenching in some of the masonry walls. So overall, this change order is a credit back to the project. And we are just doing updates for right now, right? We'll get into specifics of those amounts at the end of this. Okay, just making sure. And stop me if you guys have any questions. Change order 9, we again briefly, the last time we were in front of you, talked about the structural stabilization that is needed in the mayor's office. That is change order number 9 for those exterior walls, and that is an add to the project. Next slide. There are 3 upcoming change orders. Again, some of these we have been talking about. There's some additional masonry work based on some hidden conditions as we've removed we're opening up openings to put windows back in. We've taken the cornices off the top of the tower, and there's some masonry work that needs to be done up there that, you know, we were not able to view with the cornice work still on. There's also, we're going to remove the asphalt paving from the scope of work. There is a separate project to, as we understand it, completely pave that whole back area, so that comes out of the scope of this project. And then the waterproofing at the exterior that I know we have all been invested in over the course of this project, trying to figure out what is going on there to make sure water doesn't continue to get into the ground floor. So those are the 3 items that we know are coming down the pike that we are working on scope and pricing currently.
So do you have a guesstimated on how much that credit add will be?
I believe, yes and no, because we're still working through some of that. The masonry work, I believe, is somewhere in the
30. After the revisions, you're at about 30,000.
about 30,000.
We took some out of it once we revised it.
The credit on the asphalt, Some of that depends on some details of what all is in the scope for the paving project, so I don't know if you have an
We're
idea.
still, along with the city, I think we're still working through some of the details to see what we're removing from our scope of work. Until that's final, I can't give a firm.
No, go ahead.
So in the county's pavilion project, there were some existing funds remaining at the end of that project, and the county reached out and said, if you all are looking to do a full resurface as opposed to patchwork, we'll contribute our excess funds to that project and partner with you all. So we do need to meet and figure out the scope of what's being removed, whether that's just the asphalt, whether it's the fill, am I saying that right, fill, base, if all of that's being removed or just the asphalt portion. But the goal would be to maximize resources and pave the entire lot as opposed to, piecemeal doing that. So we're looking into the scope of what that would look like, but my hope, and I know they're going to go into this more, my hope would be that that's on the next council agenda with the final number of that credit, and then we'll have those internal meetings to determine scope of what's going to happen, how much funding exists from the county's project to apply to that project, existing funds that potentially could be used for it in our city budget. So more to come on that, but just figured better to remove it from the project and create a better product through partnership with the county and do it right. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
So the waterproofing and exterior that's coming, so when you opened up the front, what did you find?
So we do have some pictures, so you'll be able to see it. But essentially, broken up chunks of bricks is what was underneath the sidewalk and other silty soils. So what that means is as all the water, because the city hall sits lower, right, the street is higher, and everything sort of, all that hardscape flows back down towards city hall. So as all that water shedding back, if anything got underneath the sidewalk, it's literally just filtering straight through that brick. There's no good soil to help stop it. We plan to mitigate a lot of that with the solution we're going back with the new sidewalks and then the new trench drains and how we're tying that all in. But we want to make sure that we close that up as tight as possible so that if any other water does somehow filter through there, that it's not getting into the building.
So are you planning on waterproofing or?
Yeah, we have two solutions right now that we are looking at pricing, two different options, trying to figure out what's the best for the longevity of the building, and balance that with cost as well. So there's a few different things at play as far as how far down we're excavating, where a new trench drain is going to be placed, and which waterproofing system we're going to go back with. So we have two that we're pricing right now, and we'll then make a decision based on the pricing that we get back.
So by the time we do make the two change orders tonight, one's a positive, one's a negative, and you've got a negative, positive, and a negative change order, will that pretty much take that $400,000 that's left in contingency there?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
I have not looked at what the potential costs of that are, but that for the, because the 467 and some change includes the two change orders that are pending approval tonight. So the three credit add that is left would not take that remaining 467.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's easy to flip back and forth. All right. Next slide, please. Just looking at general update, overall on the exterior, you can see we've got windows continuing to go in. The rear stair tower, I believe, when is steel going to start?
Stairs are in.
Stairs are in. These pictures were from a couple weeks ago. Fair warning. On the ground floor, there has been a lot of activity since the last meeting. We have a lot of walls going in, a lot of drywall, all the above ceiling. MEP work is underway, and that space there on the ground floor is really starting to take shape. On the first floor, again, walls are mostly installed. We have soffits going in, drywall going in, doing some plaster repair. We did find the original arched window when we took the furring out, so we were looking at some options there of what's possible to restore that window. And I believe that is it for the first floor. So second floor, we are really moving towards finishing of this space. We do not have the ceilings in just quite yet. We are close to putting ceilings in and close to starting HVAC to be able to fully get air on inside the building. Next slide. Third floor, obviously, is the biggest transformation. Right now, mayor's office was standing because we have a few updates to do in there. But the rest of the space has come along quite nicely, and we have the drywall in progress of being finished there, and just some above ceiling work remaining in there as well. So as we talk about the change orders, again, for the structural stabilization, we talked about this a little bit last time, so just to reiterate, we had the significant cracks over the windows, and this just sort of highlights where those cracks are. Next slide. It's the two exterior walls of the tower there, right where the windows are. Next slide. Just to remind you of the proposed repair, we are essentially doing a box frame around the windows of steel to sandwich the wall back together, and that is essentially what supports the wall now, is this steel. Just to further explain sort of how we got here, next slide. The cracks were observed during the design process. We had them in the project for full coat plaster repair because they were observed to be cracks in the plaster. We did not know at the time the significance of the structural damage through the wall. We would typically observe that over time. So when we removed the windows, when the construction started and we removed the windows and boarded everything up, we were not really able to observe the cracks over that year-plus time frame. So when the windows were installed and it was much easier to see the cracks, it actually looked like one had gotten a little bit worse from when we had originally observed it during design, and that's when the question was asked, and a further, more in-depth analysis was done of those cracks. So just to sort of recap that a little bit of how we got to where we are. Before we move on, any questions on that?
So, Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
So the wall protrusion from the exterior perspective, how did we miss that?
The wall protrusion on the outside is, it is slight at one angle, and really, unless you are up on a lift even with it, is a little difficult to see. Now that we were able to see the full extent on the inside and then looking at it on the outside, it's easier to see that relation, and I don't know if there's anything you guys have to add.
It's between 1.5 inches, 3 stories.
Excuse me, could you come up, please? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian McMillan, Brandon
Thank you,
Cooper,
Brian.
structural engineers. To answer your question on how we missed it on the outside, if you go outside and you know it's there and you're looking for it, you see it. If you don't know it's there and not looking for it, it's very hard to catch. Just 1.5 inches protrusion, 3 stories in the air. So that's the very real answer of how we didn't see it on the outside. Those cracks, you don't see those cracks projecting on the outside. It's that stone facade on the outside. So yes, if you're looking at it, you absolutely can see it. But in inspecting the whole building, it's hard to catch that high up without getting on a lift and being right there at it. So from the sidewalk, it's difficult to see.
Okay, next slide. We talked about the water infiltration a little bit, but just, again, to reiterate, we dug a test pit. We went down about 4 feet. We could see in the lower left photo, that wall, that's the brick wall and then the stone foundation wall as you go down to the ground floor. So we were right up against the wall there. And you can see there's just broken chunks of brick and just not great soil under there. So it is just a filter for water to get straight back to the building. We also found actually, when we removed the sidewalks and the original downspouts had pipes that ran under the sidewalk and out to the street, those pipes were perforated, meaning all of the water shedding off the building was just shedding into our broken brick soil under the sidewalk. So it was just shedding water back to the face. Again, I think what's in the contract documents now to replace that sidewalk will take care of a lot of that. We aren't going to have perforated pipe that's allowing building runoff to get into there. But we do want to waterproof that just to make sure that if anything does get down there, that it's not going to continue to come into the building. Next slide. So looking at the cost impact to date, so the change order cost to date, including change orders 8 and 9 in front of you this evening, is $307,714.92, which leaves $467,326.33. Again, I think we talked about this at the last meeting. If our target is somewhere in the between 200,000 to 300,000 range is what we want to keep in the contingency for the FF&E. And I think based on where we are right now with the change orders, we feel comfortable that we're going to hit that target.
I'm sorry, 200 to what?
Between 200,000 and 300,000 of the contingency is what would be able to accommodate the FF&E.
Can we add that into the future updates of this is what
Okay.
FF&E was originally intended to be?
Yeah, I mean, we did not necessarily have a budget for just FF&E, just in looking at, in some of the other project costs that we've done FF&E, if we can stay around that target, then that should be a good target to be able to supply the FF&E.
So we don't have a breakdown of what is proposed? Okay.
Next slide. So in terms of upcoming tasks, for the pricing items, we need to submit our bulletin for the asphalt paving scope, which we talked about earlier, submit our bulletin for the waterproofing scope, again, which we just talked about, and then review the pricing for the additional masonry work. For construction, continuing with window installation, installing the new stair and enclosure at the rear stair tower, start up of the mechanical system, so it is nice and cool in the building, great for summertime. Continue or really finish our wall framing and drywall installation, begin installing finishes for the ceilings, the tile, and the other flooring, be able to refinish the wood floors. Begin site work at the entrance, which can happen as soon as we can do the waterproofing. Begin the utility work in the alley, install the decorative attic vent on the roof, that is the tower roof, and then complete the metal roof and cornice installation on the remaining areas of the building. Anything to add?
Mayor?
That is all.
Yes, go ahead.
As you can imagine, what my question's going to be, as is always my question, what is the timeline now?
I mean, as of right now, I think with what's being presented tonight, substantial completion will push to September 9th. With the outstanding change orders, there are some items that are being held up, which is holding up final completion at this point. We can, if we can get, push and fast track these things, I think we can shrink the schedule a little bit, but firmly, I can't give you a true date until we get these items in the works and get them priced and obviously get them in process, so.
Okay, Mayor, I would request as soon as they can get something to let us know.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could,
Yes.
what is the ballpark finished dollar amount when this is all said and done? Anybody? I'm not asking specifics, I just put it in a ballpark.
For the project?
Yeah.
I mean, the 12.4 million is, and, because that includes the contingency, though, so that is right now the target amount, excluding anything from the the historic tax credit allocation, which would reduce that amount.
Okay.
All right.
So the tax credit is not included in that?
That is correct.
Do we have an amount as to how much that would be?
Yeah, we have the tax credit value. It's 1.6 million.
1.6, thank you.
Could you go back to the cost slide, Zach? Project cost. So that GMP value at the bottom, that's guaranteed maximum price. So anything to date has not impacted that guaranteed maximum price. It's been drawn from the contingency value. So if no more change, which that's not going to happen because we just reviewed a couple more change orders, but if no more change orders occurred, we would have $467,000 to bid out and procure all of our furniture and fixtures for the building. And anything left there is just excess on the project. So until that contingency amount is reduced to zero, the project value is at that 12.49, less any tax credits.
Okay. So, so minus tax credits, roughly, we're gonna have $10.8 million in this building across the street. Okay. That's $5 million a fire station that we could have had, but perception's becoming reality because we care more about this old building across the street than we do about public safety. Said it before and I said it again. It was ridiculous then, it's ridiculous now.
Well, I'm going to come on in to say that, Joe, but the building itself was not, need to be done. And I'm going to stand by that on that end. Because we're putting our people who work in there in an environment where I think it needs to be addressed. And yeah, at the time probably could have had a fire station, but at the point of at that time, the most important thing was safety of that building and making sure that the people that comes in there, visit that place, will have a place where we can be proud of, but also making sure that it's not a place that we're not worried about later down the road.
Well,
So that being said.
I'm not arguing with you about it because I was at Bourbon Street in the old pencil factory and, you know, I know all about the black mold, lead, cadmium, chromium, da-da-da-da-da-da. So I understand it. I'm putting people in that situation. But again, it's still, we could have taken steps to mitigated the black mold and done some steps, but and put fire stations up. But, you know, I was on the dissenting vote and the council decided to move forward. So, you know, looking forward to it.
But also, I don't think that you can't keep just Band-Aiding things up. Because eventually it gets to a point, those Band-Aids will come off.
I agree.
And then you're going to be ending up doing more things to it. So, you know, if you take care of the problem now, later on down the road, it's not going to be an issue. So, okay, but I appreciate the thought there. All right. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, go.
When does a tax credit come back to us? When does that come back to us after the project's finished?
So
Stacy?
I'll touch on it and then let Stacy give details. So there's a timeframe in working with Kentucky Heritage Council that everything has to be complete by. So we have 2 years from the day we started paying on the project until it completes. You have 2 years, and that is the money that is included in that allocation. So, and then once construction is complete, we have what's called a Part 3 application that has to be done. So we have to go in and document everything that was done to the project so that they can compare that against what the application was, what we said we were going to do, what we found over the course of construction, and how we repaired that. So that all takes place as soon as the construction is done. We have until July of 2026. That is our deadline to give all of that stuff back to Kentucky Heritage Council. so that they can finalize the tax allocation to you guys.
Is that an additional fee of the work, the scope that you're gonna do on that, is that an additional fee for you all, or is that also included into this?
We have a separate fee that we gave as part of our design fee for the tax credit application process. We have used a portion of that to do both parts 1 and 2, and we have a small portion left to do part 3.
Yes, and just so you know, I know some council members who weren't here when we did it initially, we received approximately $1.8 million of tax credits, but being that the city is a tax exempt organization, we don't file a tax return. So what we did, we sent out a solicitation to some local financial institutions. Only certain financial institutions really handle these types of programs, and the city went with Stockyards Bank, who essentially pays us 80 cents on the dollar or 83 cents on the dollar for each of the tax credits, and then the financial institutions use those credits. So essentially Stockyards at the end of the project will write us a check to buy our tax credits. And that's how we get the money back on the end, once they've completed all the paperwork with the Heritage Council. So that's how it works.
When they buy our tax credit, they buy it for that
1.6 million, yes. That was the approximate calculation on that.
Okay.
So that's how it works at the end, is we'll pay the full bill, and then they'll buy the tax credits, and we'll get that cash back from that sale of the tax credits.
Any more questions?
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. So I think at this time, do I need a motion for item B and also item C? We'll do it separately. So at this time, the municipal order for the City Hall change order number 8. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
That's a credit, I'll make the motion.
All right. Motion made by Ms. Sams. Do I have, Ms. Sames, do I have a second? Second made by Ms. Mitchell. Are there any questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion, item B, municipal order for City Hall change order number 8, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item C, municipal order for the City Hall change order number 9. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Ms. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Ms. Hambrick. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. Let the record let the record reflect that items B and C pass. Now, we're going back to the original agenda with item number 9. And we got Mr. Holden Fleming here with us again, and he's going to give us a quarterly update. All right.
Okay. Mayor, members of the council, I appreciate you allowing me some time to talk about some of the great work that the Planning Commission has been up to. You'll notice this update is looking backwards at the last fiscal quarter. We're halfway through the year, but we just started Q1 2025. So why am I up here? That is a fantastic question. It was actually mentioned, looking for Dan, public trust. What are we doing? How does the Planning Commission come to decisions? What do those decisions look like? And so I'd like to talk for just a little bit, and then ideally, if you guys have any questions, this is an opportunity for you guys to ask those questions and save you a trip down to my office. So the first things I want to look at, though, is kind of a recap of what your Board of Adjustment has been up to the last couple months. This is for April, May, and June. In April, there were no cases, and so really this is just looking at May and June. In those 2 months, they considered 5 different cases. 3 of them were for conditional uses, which are essentially uses that are allowed if we can mitigate against any potential negative impacts. And then variances when somebody needs a departure from our set standards. Actually, it's funny enough, it worked out. 3 have got approved and 2 got denied. In doing this, your Board of Adjustment is looking at state statutes. KRS 100 dictates what the requirements for granting of a variance are, and KRS also dictates what the granting of a conditional use permit would be. We'll go to the next slide. Planning Commission, same kind of situation here. The last 3 months, again, we had 22 cases brought before us. The breakdown that you see there are FSPs, which is a final short plat. Those are typically utilized in rural areas, so not in the city of Georgetown proper, but your Planning Commission serves both Scott County as well as Georgetown. PDPs, those are preliminary development plans. You'll see we had more of those than anything else. Essentially, somebody's got a new development they're proposing. That's the first kind of level of review that we have there. PSPs, those are preliminary short plats. That's when we're dividing land. And then ZMAs, those are zoning map amendments. I think you guys are very familiar with those. The one kind of application that we did not see in this last set of 3 months, but it's actually coming up immediately after we finish this, is a zoning ordinance text amendment, or a ZOTA. Basically, whenever we take a look at the actual contents of our development regulations, and we consider whether or not it's in our best interest to make changes to those. If we look over at our next box, in that time period, we approved 14 of the submitted applications. 8 applications were either withdrawn or postponed until a later date. Let me jump ahead of a question here. In the last 3 months, our Planning Commission voted no on a total of 0 applications. That can seem kind of funny, so I want to talk about that for a little bit. Mr. Stone, I'm going to look at you. You brought up a couple months ago, you said, when does the smart planning start happening? And I can easily understand why you would look at a chart like that and ask that same question. And so I want to explain kind of what that process looks like from a planning and zoning perspective. When we get an application, we are in constant communication with whoever's project or plan that is that sits before us. When we talk at TRC, which is our Technical Review Committee, we identify a whole host of issues that it could come up with a plan. Deficiencies where it doesn't meet our regulations, questions where either my office or any of our supporting offices are unsure of how something is being addressed or how it should be addressed. And then immediately after that TRC, we look for those corrections. We want to see what changes have been made from those comments to make sure, again, that we want to see that plan come in line with our development regulations. It is a very rare situation where we will write a preliminary staff report or we will communicate back to a developer that the plan that they have in front of us doesn't meet our regulations, and then they say, oh, take it forward anyway. Oftentimes at that point, that's where that applicant says, I'd like to postpone, or in rare circumstances, I would like to withdraw my application. So why don't we see more no's? Is because we're working diligently to find a solution where we can bring a development in line with our development regulations. And then the next step is, as a Planning Commission, we are bound by certain state statutes, and we're bound by our development regulations. When an application comes in front of us and they check those boxes, when we've worked to get them in compliance, the right thing to do is to recommend approval there. And so that's why it can kind of sometimes feel like everything that's coming up just gets voted yes. It's because there's been a lot of work and a lot of revisions in the background that gets that document to that final state when it does come in front of the Planning Commission. Okay. Next slide. Guys, this is big news right here. In 2024, the state of Kentucky legislature passed a law and was signed by the governor. Basically, and this again points to the idea that if it meets our codes, we should be approving it. The state of Kentucky passed a new law that says that if somebody is applying for a development plan or a subdivision, and they're requesting no variances, and there's no direct threat to health, life, or safety, that my staff needs to be approving those ministerially. This went into effect July 1. What this means is that going forward, when somebody comes in with a plan that meets our requirements, it will not go in front of the planning commission for a public hearing. That is going to be handled ministerially. And again, this was not my office saying this. This was the state of Kentucky saying this is the way it needs to be done. And it further points to this idea that when an application meets our requirements, as we've enumerated in our development regulations, the answer needs to be yes. And if it's not yes, we need to demonstrate how it does not meet that requirement. Now, you can ask my staff, there's been questions, well, what happens if it doesn't meet it? What happens if we don't get those changes? What happens if we, and the answer is we're going to say, proposal denied. We give the developers every opportunity to come into compliance, but if they're unable or unwilling to meet our standards, the answer is no. And now that is a ministerial decision. In the events where there are variances requested, when it's something like a zoning map amendment or it's a zoning text amendment, that's still going to have that public hearing in front of the Planning Commission, because this public process is important, and we want to. Councilmember Tingle Sames, when I think your first meeting this year, you said you like a dirty kitchen. I recognize the sentiment. We like an open kitchen. When these big decisions are being made, we need to have people at the meeting. We'll go to the next slide. Now let's be real for a second. Getting people to that meeting can sometimes be very difficult. Sometimes planning commission meetings are kind of dull or dry. I mean, it's a lot to wade through to figure out how does this apply to me, or what does this really mean? What are we trying to say here? I'm sure you guys can recognize that. One of the things my office has tried to do is get out of our office, get out of that public setting, or that formal public hearing setting, and go meet the community where the community is. In May, we had a fantastic community housing forum meeting. We actually partnered with some of your staff to have that meeting. And it was an opportunity for members of the public to come to kind of a neutral ground. We hosted at the library. Some people don't feel comfortable walking into a room like this, but they might feel comfortable going into a library. And so we had a great meeting. We talked a lot about housing and what housing looks like for Georgetown, and what steps we can take to make sure that the housing we're getting is the housing that this community needs. And then we did a lot of planning for, and Kim, Mr. Mankey, I'm looking at you on this one. Just this last week, we had another meeting at Ward Hall where we talked about what does historic preservation look like in Georgetown. We had somebody give a presentation on those tax credits that just got brought up a couple seconds ago, and how private property owners can take advantage of those tax credits. A couple more that aren't listed on there. We had a fantastic meeting with some very bright students at Elkhorn Crossing School, where we talked about walkability and how you can transition from that Elkhorn campus to Drake Crossing campus and what that looks like in a school setting. We also got to review some kids. We asked them basically to make up a city, design their own city. We came and we talked to them about what makes cities places that we want to spend time. There's some really funny things that came out of that. I think it's probably a good thing that we have our staff and not just a random assortment of 18-year-olds planning the city. A little bit of a difference. But that community outreach is going to continue to be a hallmark of my office. I look at this as an opportunity for community outreach. You guys have an incredibly difficult job to do. And my job is to help you guys. When you guys have questions about planning and zoning, give me a call. Stop by the office. Catch me at Kroger's. I'm around. At the same time, though, I've got to do a better job of being proactive and reaching out to you guys. Okay? Telephone works two ways, right? And so as we move forward, when there are opportunities for us to assist you guys in these planning processes, when you have questions before you, as things come up, we want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of that conversation. Go to the next slide. Okay. So our office just doesn't do current use planning. Sometimes we work on long-range planning stuff as well. And so what I've just quickly laid out for you here is basically a breakdown of kind of the steps that something will go to before it finds its way in front of you guys, and then ultimately, hopefully, into an implementation or adoption step. We'll go one more slide forward. I'm just going to quickly highlight a couple of those types of projects that you can expect to see in the near-term future. So still just at the conception stage and not You guys won't be taking a look at this one, but it's a good example of what we're doing as far as community outreach and public process. We were recently approached by the city of Stamping Ground, who had some questions. They said our zoning map doesn't line up with what our zoning map needs to be. What's the process to get that changed? What is that going to look like? And so we've got a meeting scheduled for July 22nd where we're going to go to the city of Stamping Ground, and we're going to talk about that process. We're going to talk about what they're looking for as far as those changes and how we can assist them in kind of that actualization of their ideas. One that you will see, hopefully sooner rather than later, is accessory dwelling units. Accessory dwelling units, for you guys, I think I might have even talked about them up here before, granny flats, the apartment above the garage. What does that look like in our community as we try to identify ways to have aging in place, as you try to identify solutions for that boomerang generation who might be coming back home after college, as you try to figure out different solutions to augmenting our neighborhood's capacity to do that thing that neighborhoods are supposed to do, which is house people. Right now, we're in the research phase. I can tell you, kind of my thoughts on it, but anytime we're doing a planning project like this, we want to find kind of what those typical planning norms are, what those best practices are, and what examples we can put into to say they're doing something right, and the flip side too, to point to them and say they're doing something wrong, so that we don't make those same mistakes. A little bit further along in the process, we talk about preliminarily drafting something up. We're working with your staff right now on what it would look like if we were to update the Georgetown sign ordinance. There's been lots of questions about signs. I've heard this before, Emily, I'm going to look at you on this one. Signs are where attorneys' careers go to die. We don't want that to happen here. We want to learn the lessons that these other communities have made, but then we've got to make those changes. And that's going to, again, require that community input to make sure that the people who are looking at the signs are okay with looking at the signs, the people putting the signs up are happy with that product that they're going to be able to put up there. A little bit further on down the line there, we're currently working with Scott County, and it'll affect you guys too, on a new RV ordinance. What do RVs in our community look like? Where should they go? What requirements should we bake into that development regulation? We just had, and this is really important to recognize. We brought that in front of our planning commission at the last, our meeting just last week. And our planning commission said, we don't think we've had enough public engagement on this process yet. Let's push that off. We're not in a rush to make these big long-term decisions. We want to get it right. Normally a pretty good indicator if you're heading down the right path is when you start to get those dissenting opinions, not just everyone on board saying, hurrah, here we go. We have to have multiple voices at the table. We have to allow for that conversation to happen. We have to facilitate that conversation because, again, ultimately, that's how we're going to get the best product. And then finally, I mentioned it earlier tonight, House Bill 443. At the last Planning Commission meeting, we did have a public hearing on that. As I've previously mentioned, our staff is now being asked to evaluate all development plans and subdivision plans that don't require any sort of variance ministerially. That requires us to have very clear standards that we can enact at a staff level. Our staff has put together an enormous document where we've gone through the entirety of the zoning ordinance and the entirety of the subdivision regulations to see where subjective language may have sat so that we can remove that subjective language. You really don't want staff making subjective calls. You want the answer to be yes or you want the answer to be no. And so soon, you guys will begin taking a look at that and making sure, again, that those changes are in line with your vision for Georgetown. I want to mention one more thing when it comes to vision. We have a fantastic comprehensive plan. I'm taking a look at 3 people in front of me who are on the executive steering committee associated with that. Was it perfect? Nothing is. But the document that we are functioning off of right now is among some of the best comprehensive plans, one of the best comprehensive plans I've ever seen. Personally, it was a big reason why when I was looking at the city of Georgetown, I said, these guys know what they're doing. It's a professional document, well put together, and I think encapsulate the vision for the community that we're going off of. As questions arise, though, if we feel that the comprehensive plan is not doing the job that it's supposed to do. That's another opportunity for that public engagement. That's another opportunity for you guys to talk about how we can make it better. These documents aren't chiseled in stone. We can make the changes necessary to get us to where we want to go. But that's going to require time and some tough conversations. And as you see underlined underneath that long-range planning projects, it always requires public engagement. We can't sit in a room with 5, 10, or even 15, 20 people and make decisions. We have to have that open kitchen. That's where we're going to do our best work. I'll close kind of with two things. I had a great question asked me the other day by one of my planning commission members. They said, how many apartments do we have in Georgetown? What does that look like? Because it does seem like we're getting a whole bunch of them. And so I thought, well, let's actually take a look at this really quick. And so that's what I've done. You guys have the overall density map of Georgetown in front of you. I'm going to give you the numbers to kind of supplement off of that. In the city of Georgetown right now, we count about roughly 17,000 dwelling units in our city. Of those 17,000 dwelling units, roughly 13,000 of them are single-family homes, and 4,000 of them are multifamily homes. That's a ratio of about 76% single-family to 24% multifamily. The other thing that you'll look there on, because again, you get a lot of R3 developments, a lot of R2 developments. Within the city of Georgetown, there's currently 634 acres zoned R3. The R3 zone has a maximum density by right, utilizing net, which is what we have right now, of 5.51 dwelling units per acre. The maximum for that zone is 16. If we were to look at these maximum densities versus what the maximum densities that we have for the zones versus what is actually represented here in the city of Georgetown today, nothing approaches the maximums that we allow. This is a good reminder that when we get development proposals in front of us, oftentimes the developer does not go all the way up to the max. And even if they do, the majority of our city is already developed. And most of the development we're looking at is not redevelopment. This is a great chart to talk about. I'd love to answer some questions if you have any. And then the last one, Mayor Jenkins, looking at you in this one, you guys passed a fantastic budget. I'm selfishly very happy for it because in that you guys gave funding for 2 additional planner positions. It's the last thing I'm saying to the public. We are currently hiring 2 new planners. If this stuff interests you, if you feel like you can give back to the community, if this is something you feel like you have a passion for or skill set for, I invite you to visit our website, put in an application, and I'd love to have the city council send me anybody that they think would be a good fit too. So with that, that's my quarterly update. Again, I hope to do this every 3 months or so. If you guys have questions, that's what I'm here for.
I have a comment, maybe not a question, but appreciate you giving the 17,000, 13,000 homes, 76% versus the 24%. When that's 4,000, you're saying that's like apartments and
Duplexes, townhomes.
duplexes and townhomes. From an old-timer that's been around here, that increase, I mean, that's a third of our housing now that's in apartments, and that's a big concern for me because if that has happened, you don't have time to go back and research how quickly that's happened, but that has happened really quick to now a third of our housing is actually in apartments. To you, it sounded like it wasn't very much, but to me, it sounds like that's a lot, but that's a comment, that's all that is.
Mr. Minkey, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Holden, thank you for your update. I think that was great. In the original slides that you had showing the approvals and all of that, if we take into account House Bill 443,
Yeah.
how often, if any, are you making recommendations that are different than the final outcome of the Planning Commission? So if, for instance, if you do not recommend a development, but it's overridden and approved?
Very rarely. Again, I'll talk you through something that just happened at the last 2 Planning Commission meetings. And again, our planning commission meetings, love for you to attend. If you can't, they're on YouTube. But again, some of it's kind of dense. At our June planning commission meeting, there was a proposal to develop a parcel within what is the Colony neighborhood to put up 10 new townhomes. There was a staff recommendation of yes. The community came out. They participated very vigorously in this. And a motion was made, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. A motion was made for approval. That motion failed. No other motions were made. And so the application was left hanging in purgatory, basically. The next month came around. The motion was brought back up with no new, really staff information on this, but a clarification from our attorney that pointed to basically that as it met all of our development regulations as they currently stand, that as a creature of statute, which is the term he utilized, our planning commission should have approved it. Planning commission heard more testimony, took another vote, and it was approved. And so things like that occasionally happen, but for the most part, again, we are not recommending approval of something unless it meets those requirements. And it's very rare that if staff says we are going to recommend denial, that an applicant will continue on and say, I'll put it in front of the planning commission anyway.
One follow-up?
Yes, go ahead.
So the website is a great source of information. Do you all maintain that could be put on the website, like a matrix of kind of where each of the projects are, rather than having to go to each individual meeting and, trying to run the traps to be able to find where projects are and what their status is and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So that's not currently something that we have at the moment.
Right.
However, again, in line with House Bill 443 stuff, now KRS 100.275, one of the things that we're doing in recognition that these are becoming ministerial actions, but again, recognizing the value of that public comment, we are creating essentially a comment portal where anybody can plug in and make comments on specific applications. I'm going to have to talk to my GS department, but I would imagine it's not very difficult to go from that portal to a direct link to a shapefile of the specific progress or project.
Okay.
So, but it's comments like that again, hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Holden, as always, thank you for bringing us some of this vital information and some clarity and update, and we continue to look forward to these updates, and so we can stay abreast of what's going on, and especially when it talks about our community.
Thank you so much.
All right, item number 10, second reading for the zoning ordinance text amendments, sections 4.3, 4.4, schedule of dimensions, area regulations, sponsors Kim Minke. So, second reading, so.
An ordinance amending Article 4, Section 4.3 Residential Districts, Article 4, Section 4.4 Commercial Districts, and the schedule of dimension and area regulations of the Georgetown-Scott County zoning ordinance as recommended by the Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission. Summary 1. Amends Georgetown-Scott County zoning ordinance, the zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 4.33 permitted uses in R2 districts to calculate the maximum residential density by dwelling units per gross acre instead of net acre, and to add planned development projects for residential use with or without neighborhood commercial uses as defined as a permitted use. 2, repeals and replaces zoning ordinance Article 4, Section 4.34 permitted uses in the R3 districts to limit residential density to 16 dwelling units per gross acre for applicable residential uses, meeting lot dimension standards, and to add planned development projects for residential use with or without neighborhood commercial uses as defined as a permitted use. 3, amend zoning ordinance Article 4, Section 4.35, conditional uses in the R2 and R3 districts to delete subsection A, to remove neighborhood commercial facilities as part of a planned development project from the list of conditional uses, and sequentially reorganizing the remaining subsections. 4, repeals and replaces zoning ordinance Article 4, Section 4.41, B1 neighborhood commercial to clarify the intent of the B1 zoning district and establish limitations on the size and hours of operation of commercial uses located within the B1 zone. 5, amend zoning ordinance Article 4, Section 4.411, permitted uses relating to the B1 neighborhood commercial zone to limit residential density to 4.4 dwelling units per gross acre and to add planned development projects for permitted uses with or without residential use as permitted use. 6, amend zoning ordinance Article 4, Section 4.441, permitted uses relating to the B4 community commercial zone to limit the maximum residential density to not exceed 12 dwelling units per gross acre and to add planned development projects for commercial use with or without residential use above the first floor as permitted use. 7, amend zoning ordinance Article 4, Section 4.442, conditional uses relating to the B4 community commercial zone to add in patient medical facilities as conditional use. 8, amends the schedule of dimension and area regulations set forth in the zoning ordinance to show that maximum residential density is calculated by gross acreage and to increase the maximum height of buildings in the R3 zoning district to 3 stories or not to exceed 50 feet. 9, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read the first time June 23, 2025, publicly read the second time July 14, 2025.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Minke. Do I have a second? Right. Since there's no second on this, so I guess it just stays as it is. All right. Moving on to item number 11. First reading of the Urban Backyard Chicken Ordinance. Sponsors Tammy Lesby Mitchell and Greg Hampton.
An ordinance amending Section 6-19 relating to the definition of livestock, amending Section 6-20 subsection C relating to a prohibition on livestock and poultry in city limits, and creating a new section of Chapter 6, Article 2 of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances relating to urban backyard chickens. Summary 1. Amend Section 6-19 of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances, the code relating to animal control, to change the word chicken to poultry within the definition of livestock. 2, amend Section 6-20 subsection C of the Code relating to animal control to create an exemption to the prohibition on livestock and poultry within the city limits to allow poultry pursuant to the city's urban backyard chicken ordinance. 3, creates a new section of the code relating to animal control entitled Urban Backyard Chickens to establish requirements for the safe and sanitary keeping of 6 or fewer backyard chickens on a parcel with a single-family detached dwelling on which the record owners actually reside, or with permission of the record owner, and enforcement and penalties for noncompliance. This ordinance also establishes a permitting process and registration system in accordance with KRS 83A-060, subsection 9. The following sections impose a fee. Section 6, subsection B, permits. 1, a permit shall be required from the office of the city clerk treasurer for residents wishing to keep urban backyard chickens on the property where they reside within city limits in accordance with the ordinance. 2, the one-time fee for the permit is $50. 3, any resident seeking a permit shall provide a certificate of completion of an urban backyard chicken raising class taught by the Scott County Extension Office, as well as proof of inspection by code enforcement. 4, the office of the city clerk treasurer shall maintain a permit registration system and regularly distribute a current list of permittees and permitted properties with the offices charged with enforcement of this ordinance. 4, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time July 14, 2025.
Thank you. Item B, amendment to the Animal Control Ordinance, sponsors Todd Stone and Kim Minke.
An ordinance amending Section 6-20 subsection C relating to a prohibition on livestock and poultry in city limits to create an exemption for schools with agricultural education programs and an exemption for 501c3 organizations with equine outreach programs. Summary. 1. Amend Section 6-20 subsection C of the Animal Control Ordinance to create an exemption to the prohibition on livestock and poultry within city limits. A, to allow livestock and poultry to be kept on school grounds within city limits as part of an agricultural education program, National FFA Organization chapter, or 4-H programming. B, to allow horses to be kept within city limits as part of a collaborative equine outreach program established by a 501c3 organization. And C, to clarify that no person shall permit or negligently allow livestock to run at large in the city or on school grounds. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time, July 14, 2025.
All right. We're doing a lot of reading. Item C, amendment to the Code Enforcement Board Ordinance, sponsors Michael Crisp.
An ordinance amending Section 2-834 subsection B relating to the regular meeting schedule of the Code Enforcement Board. Summary. 1. Amend Section 2-834B of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances related to the Code Enforcement Board to change its regular meeting schedule from monthly to quarterly meetings on schedule to be determined by the board. 2, provides for repeal inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read the first time, July 14, 2025.
Thank you. And the last one is item number D, amendment to the Personnel Ordinance, sponsors Kim Minke and Karen Tingle Sames.
An ordinance amending Section 2-60 of the Code of Ordinances regarding personnel. Summary. 1, amends Exhibit B of Section 2-60 subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to increase the number of school resource office positions from 6 to 7 and to decrease the number of part-time police officer positions from 2 to 0 within the Georgetown Police Department. Provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time, July 14, 2025.
Thank you. Item 12, Georgetown Municipal Water and Sewer Service, and Chase is coming up. The first one is item A, Hexton Technologies for $98,160.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, this is our first of 4 items, and this is for our phosphorus removal chemical at wastewater plant 2. This is a 6-month supply. It is a budgeted purchase. It is a bid item through our annual chemical unit price contract.
Motion, Mayor.
Okay, at this time, got a motion made by Ms. Mitchell, second made by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and or comments? All right, all those in favor of item A, Hexon Technologies for $98,160, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that pass. Item B, Judy Construction, change order number 9 for weather days on WWTP number 1, upgrade and expansion.
We have 2 change orders on the wastewater treatment plant number 1 project 31st is a no-cost change order, as the mayor said, only related to schedule. And we have multiple project milestones. However, most important that we're looking for is beneficial use. And we are, with beneficial use, that is when we get to use the new treatment technology to treat wastewater. That's when we have the expanded capacity available. Current contractual milestone for beneficial use is March 31st of this year, which is obviously come and gone, and we're not there yet. I've given you some brief updates telling you that this change order was coming. Judy Construction, they tried their best to hit this date over a very long project with extenuating, very unique circumstances, and they tried to hit that milestone without requesting any weather days. It just wasn't able to happen the way we wanted that to come together, but we've tracked inclement weather days since the beginning of the project, and currently Judy is eligible for 95 weather days, and they have made that request. They've also requested an additional 88 days, and that is just due to unforeseen project delays that were really born out of the structural redesign. And they have made that claim, and so this would extend the beneficial use milestone from March 31st to September 30th. That's a total of 183 days. Of course, we would like that to be sooner. We'd like that to already be using the new infrastructure, but this project has, as we all know, presented numerous very challenging points, and so we feel like September 30th is something that we can achieve. We were hoping that we would be in by March, but we do feel like that is attainable, and that is what we are supporting, even though we'd like it to have already happened. We make this recommendation, already approved by the board. We make this recommendation to council. This would be our new beneficial use date, the most important date in the contract. Of course, as you see the other dates that are being extended, we'll still be working on this project for a number of months after that, but that is the only date that really matters for the public, for us as a utility. We'll get everything else done, the site grading, the fencing, the painting. This is the one that's most important, and I think it is within our grasp in September. So we're recommending this no-cost change order for schedule to you for your consideration.
Mayor. At this time, a motion made by Mr. Hampton, second by Mr. Mickey. Or you have a question?
I had a question.
Okay.
But I will second, but I.
Okay, second. Now your question.
Chase, thanks for the information that you provided to the board and to the on the package of everything. One of the questions that I had out of that information was the engineering consultant. It was in there that for administrative services and the resident inspection, that contract ended July 3rd. And so the question is, was that extended? If not, then how are we covering that with the days?
It has not been extended, and we're covering that internally. We have 2 construction inspectors in our engineering department that cover new development projects. One of those will be reassigned full-time to the wastewater plant, and he's very experienced in knowing when he needs to be on site to see certain things. He will float to development projects as he is able with his schedule there, and then our in-house capital projects manager will be, he will take over construction administration services through the rest of the project. The consultant still is under contract. They will come back for startup and for final inspection, project closeout.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions? All right. At this time, if there's no other questions, those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that the item B, due to construction change order number 9 for weather days for WWTP number 1 upgrade and expansion was approved. Item C, Judy Construction WWTP number 1 change order number 10 for $307,256.30.
Okay, So this is a cost change order, and these are owner requested, Georgetown Municipal requested additions to the construction contract. So I want to tell you what they are, and then I want to tell you how we're going to pay for it. So first, what we've got is change order number 10. It is a compilation of 6 items that we have requested the contractor, Judy, to add to the project. I'm going to give you a brief overview, and I apologize, some of this is technical, some of this is technical beyond my level, but I'll do my best to walk you through it. And then I think the more important thing is again, how do we pay for that? So first, just a quick overview. I'll run through these. Field order number 29, this is something we observed in the field. We need additional water line installed at our septic receiving station. That's where the waste haulers come in. They unload at the plant directly. We've determined that we need an extra water line because the piece of equipment that was specified there does require extra water for operation and then cleanup of the area. Field order 30, that involves an extra electrical connection at our sludge processing building. So we process sludge with a screw press. That equipment, at some point, it's going to go down. It's going to need maintenance, or we're going to have to get a new one. When that happens, we can't be out of operation, so we bring in a mobile press on the back of a tractor trailer. This will allow us, when that day comes, we have a spot for that to happen, we need power. So rather than have to scramble, it's very cheap now to install this extra electrical connection. So that's what this part of this field order is for. We plan for that today. Field order 33, this is extra piping at our non-potable water pump station and extra concrete pads for our blower equipment where we aerate. That's part of our process. We have to have blowers feed air to the system. That's part of our biological treatment. And we needed additional blower pads. So this is field order 33 is both of those components. 35, this is extra trench drains at our pretreatment facility and in our sludge processing building. Basically, when we service this equipment or when something breaks, guess what? It makes a mess. And we've got to wash the building down. And this is where we get out our brooms, mops, and squeegees. Well, we got to be able to push that wash down water somewhere. And generally, we push it into the waste channel. However, these are pretty big buildings, and that's a lot of pushing. We want to keep these facilities clean and in good working condition for many, many years. We feel like this is a good use to add some extra trench drains just to help with maintenance and keeping the facility clean. Next one is FRP grading. This is the most important one of this entire change order. FRP grading, this is essentially, it's non-metallic covers of wastewater channels. And within a treatment plant, this is an odor control measure. It's covering some wastewater trenches, so odors can't come out. Your worst odors come from your pretreatment facility where the water first enters the plant. We've designed, constructed an excellent odor control unit there. Keep in mind, we're right next to Cardome and UCON. This is downstream of that facility, and as we're looking at it, we see this as a potential odor problem. We want to go ahead while we've got a contractor with a crane on site. Let's cover those up. That's going to give us better odor control protection on some of these open channels. The last item, this is having to do with NEMA control sensors for our grit conveyors. This is where it gets real technical on the electrical side. We had sensor spec, they're NEMA 7 or 6 sensors. We have enclosed some of that equipment. When you enclose it, it becomes what's called an explosion-proof electrical space. You have to have explosion-proof sensors. So we need to move from NEMA 6 sensors to NEMA 7 sensors. Any questions there?
More than you ever wanted to know.
Well,
Okay. Let's move to the next slide where I'm sure you actually, what you want to know is how are we going to pay for this, Chase? So we plan for these items in a construction contract. Obviously, everybody knows we already had very unforeseen circumstances on the structural side. We take that out of the conversation if we can. I know that's a difficult ask, but aside from that, we plan for these things similar to City Hall, similar to a high school, similar to a justice center, we put in allowances for different things. And I say allowances because I don't feel like I don't classify this as contingency money. We know these things that are unforeseen are going to come up, and so we account for those. So we have 4 allowances within this construction contract. 2, 3, and 4 are specific for purchasing equipment that we will use. Number 1 is it's roughly 6% of the original construction contract. That's actually low for a project of this magnitude. We tried to trim that out, but this is for miscellaneous site improvements. And so far through this job, which we're very close, we've only used of that allowance, I think $60,000 and change on additional concrete testing and additional special inspections. So this 307,000, looking for the exact number, but we are comfortable with allocating that to our miscellaneous site improvements allocation within the job, that allowance. We do anticipate we will have some more change orders in this project, but I do not think we will come anywhere near spending that remaining allowance there. I think our largest remaining change order we have is our site paving, which will likely be done toward the end of the project. That part of the bid was made on a paving index that is now 4 years old. Pavement costs a lot more today than it did, and that's generally, that's a very common occurrence in a project that has this type schedule. Your paving index will increase, so you'll get a change order for pavement. That's what I think will be the biggest remaining change order. Again, I don't think we will go anywhere near that allowance, so we are comfortable with recommending this within paying with that allowance on the project. Questions?
Any questions?
Motion.
Motion. Thank you. Mr. Stone made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of item C, Judy Construction, WWTP number 1, change order number 10 for $307,256.30, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that it passed. Item D is recommendation of award pump station number 20 and force main improvements. Cost $1,887,950.
Thank you, Mayor. So back in the fall of last year, I believe it was around November. I apologize, I didn't look up the exact meeting date. I didn't get to that, but council approved an engineering design for this project, and it was pump station number 20 and force main improvements. This is for a pump station that serves the Stonecrest subdivision that's on the south side of the bypass there, close to the intersection of 25. And so I said it then, I'll repeat it today, full disclosure. This is not a budgeted project within our current rate model and our current capital improvements program. But what we had going on here is we had a developer come to us. This is Hogan Real Estate working on the Georgetown Commons project, which is the Bryn Gardner property that's adjacent to Stonecrest. And they said that they need sewer capacity. We didn't have it there. And in order to make this project happen that will give them capacity, they're going to shoulder 1/3 of the project cost. That's everything, engineering, easements, construction. And that was based on beneficial use by acreage. Their acreage for this sewer shed for their project, roughly 1/3 of it. And then our service area that is existing service is roughly 2/3. So the council approved letting me add this project. At the time, it was a design contract to our capital improvements program. So just wanted to be very upfront there on the history there. This project for us, it is beneficial in that we get to replace an aging pump station and we get to eliminate a second aging pump station. So we'll go, we'll reduce our pump station number by 1 with this project. It also gives us, with the developer paying his or her share, that they will get capacity to that new development. So they are paying their way there. The construction cost was estimated at $2.2 million, and our bid has come in at $1,887,950, so we're just over $300,000 under budget of what we expected here. So we want to recommend this for your consideration. We're behind this project, and this is with Buchanan Contracting. They do good work for us, so for your consideration.
At this time, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Minky. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second made by Ms. Mitchell. Are there further questions and/or comments?
So I do. Stonecrest, that part of it has been annexed into the city?
I believe it has. I believe that's been in the city many, many years. I can check, though, and for sure, and get back to you.
Oh, I just can't visualize where it is for some reason. That's all.
Go south of the bypass.
Where?
McDonald's on South Gatewood.
Yeah.
Providence Christian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Harmony
Harmony Christian, is it the, it's the, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So it might be Harmony Christian, Mayor. So it might be Harmony Christian. So has that
Yes.
property was annexed, when was that annexed in? Is it, it's not that subdivision that's sitting there now. Is that what they call that subdivision that's sitting there currently?
I just noticed Stonecrest, east of McDonald's.
Yes.
On the south side of the bypass, and it is north of the Greenbelt. That's why I'm saying that it has been annexed many years ago, because it is north of the Greenbelt, where I believe the Greenbelt and the bottom of the city limits align.
I just can't remember it.
I can send you a project.
I think if you go Southgate, past McDonald's and on
Yeah.
to the back there, it's hidden back in there. You
Yeah.
never see it.
Okay, but it's been developed, we've already
It's been
started
there for
developing.
years.
That's
Yeah.
what that one's called.
Yes.
I can send you a map. I'll send that tomorrow.
Okay,
I think I'm with you. I'll drive out there until we're
Okay.
finished.
thank you. All right. We had a motion made and properly second. All those in favor of the recommendation will award pump station number 20 and force main improvements for $1,887,950, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Thank you,
Thank you all.
Chase. Next, our city engineer, and I think these municipal orders numbers A, B, and C are referring to actually the street dedication where now they have, I think, kind of finished with their requirements, and now
Yeah.
it's now going to be presented to the city for the city to be taking over. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, these are three different developments. They're done. The streets are in, the curb and gutter's in, stormwater's in. They've been inspected and punched out through planning and zoning, and they have recommended to the city for us to incorporate them as street assets, and that we take them over and maintain them from this point forward. The first one is the Village at Lanes Run. That is, as y'all all know, out Old Oxford Road on your right as you're heading out Old Oxford Road before you go over the creek, before you go over Lanes Run. The next one is the Abbey at Old Oxford, which is also out Old Oxford Road. It's a little bit further out on the left. It's a new Ball Homes project. And then the third one is South Crossing, and that one is across from Kroger's.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eddie. At this time, I'll take item A, municipal order, street dedication, Village at Lane Runs, Phase 2, Unit 3C. I will entertain a motion.
Motion.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Hambrick, second made by Ms. Sames. Are there any questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item B, municipal order, street dedication, the Abbey at Old Oxford, Phase 3, Units 1A-1D. At this time, I will entertain a motion. Motion made by Mr. Hampton. Do I have a second? Second made by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item C, municipal order, street dedications, South Crossing, Phase 1, Units 1-1F. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Chris. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if you go now, item 14 will be the Police Department resolution, application for 2025 Justice Assistance Grant, JAG, funding.
Yes, this is just a continuation of the JAG grant that we've had for our 2 mental health officers for the past several years.
All right, you have
In
heard
the match.
request.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Stone. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Sains made a second. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion, the application for the 2025 Justice Assistance Grant, aka JAG funds, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right. Okay, Stacy says you might as well stay up there. And we'll go to item A, the resolution for the 2024 Community Project Funding, CPF program.
Yes, this is the allocation that we received through Congressman Barr's office, and we finally gotten to the point of having a grant agreement. There were just some paperwork and things that had to be done to get to that point, so this is just the official acceptance, and it's about $1.6 million in federal funding and a match of $408,800, which has been allocated in the city's budget.
And I believe this is for the design phase for Lexus Way,
and
correct?
Oxford Design, yes.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion is made by Ms. Mitchell. Do I have a second? Second. Second made by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council discussion, again, old business, developer impact fees. As I mentioned earlier, on the 23rd at 5 o'clock here, we're going to have a work session, and it's also, we'll have stakeholders involved in this too, so there'll be a chance for some good exchange of information. Again, the consultant will be here to ask questions in person, so it will be able to do that. If you cannot be for that, it'll be streamed on YouTube and our station here. So is there any other questions or information that anybody wants to talk about the developer impact fees? All right. Senate Bill number 63, you've had a little talk about that too with the, I think the all-terrain vehicle. And so, again, there's more you have to listen to. Of course, there are some conversations going to be going on. And I think even in our local meeting coming up tomorrow, we're going to be talking a little bit about this. So hopefully, we got to wait and see what happens in that. And I see Mr. Stone, you have a question.
Well, more of a comment on it. Good or bad, the issue is that in my thinking, the whole premise behind this is to allow these all-terrain vehicles and UTVs to get from parking lots into the areas where they ride them, such as Wildcat Off-Road Park and several others down in eastern Kentucky. We don't have that here. Those vehicles were not designed to be on the road. The tires are not designed to be on the road. And you're hearing more and more, especially coming out of eastern Kentucky, of ATV and UTV accidents where people are getting killed on these things. And they are very much like motorcycles in that they're not as conspicuous coming down a road as a car or a truck. And I think that's what's leading to a lot of these accidents, collisions, whatever you want to call them, depending upon which decade you grew up in law enforcement. So But that's the thing, I just don't see any value. We have enough traffic within the city limits of Georgetown. We don't need to add to it with these vehicles.
Mayor,
Yes,
I concur with Councilman Stone, and also at the interlocal meeting tomorrow, Tammy and I are on that. I'm sure this is gonna, it's on the agenda.
yes, it is.
You know, if they approve it and we don't, I think there needs to be a discussion about how we communicate where it's allowed and where it's not, as far as where the permission starts and where it stops, because it's going to be confusing. And so I think that needs to definitely be part of the conversation. I'm sure for enforcement of the police, that would be an important, I would assume that the onus of that would be on the county if they approve it to, okay, you have now reached the limit of the ability to have your all-terrain vehicle.
But I also think that, just because they pass it, we still have the option, if it's passed, if you entertain that thought, to put restrictions on, that will be where that's hidden. But again, I've had some conversation with some people talking about this, and I think what you brought up, there were some concerns. Not everybody's going to follow the rules like always else. People could mass it up, and, they do create some noise, and, that will be add to that. So there's a lot of information that needs to be addressed and going through this before a decision to be made. And again, of course, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow in our local committee meeting hopefully we can hash out some things, and we'll kind of give you an update on that as we go. Ms. Mitchell.
So do I understand it correctly? If they do nothing, then it's legal?
No.
That's
We
not-
have to opt in to allow it.
Okay.
We have to opt in.
County does as well.
Yeah, they have to opt in. If we do nothing, it stays as it is. It's not allowed.
Gotcha.
We have to say we are going to allow it, or if we are going to allow it with some restriction or strenuous conditions on it. So, all right. Okay, any other information or want to talk about that? All right, new business. Anybody?
I just have a clarification. Based on what Mr. Boyd Cornett talked about and some of the things that we were reading about horses, what in fact, as new business, how would horses that are already on a farm in the city limits be affected by the ordinance as read?
We have something I will look at on that and maybe get some information from you.
I think it was a very legitimate question.
And
that needs to be addressed.
I will get some
Is
staff
that,
assigned.
I mean, I think I understood his question.
Not only that, but with the potential of the distillery property out here.
Yeah.
One of the things that they're wanting to do is to expand or give a portion of
To
that
Old
property
Friends?
to Old Friends.
Right.
For educational.
As part of educational as well, so.
Yeah.
Devin, if you could write that down for me, please, and then I will address that to
Thank
take care of it. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right. If you want to come up, you want to say something, you can, but thank you. Yep.
Todd, does the proposed ordinance that you have address that, doesn't it?
Yes.
To allow the horses? Not for general
Not for
consumption of
just
horses?
general riding, it's strictly educational purposes, is along with the,
Yeah, no.
through the FFA and the 4-H, and then with any 501c3 such as Old Friends that.
That would be addressed, but not horses, because growing up, I had a horse beside the shop until I was 18, and we got annexed into the city, and that was one of the things they said, well, you have to get rid of your horse. Well, they grandfathered me in because they brought me in instead of me asking us to ask at the time coming in. But that was my understanding, no horses in the city limits, and when my horse died, I couldn't replace it. So that's unless, but yours will address the educational purposes, but not just somebody having a horse for the sense of having a horse.
That's why we probably need to look at some more information on that, to make sure that what we're putting together makes sense and so
Yeah,
on.
that was the whole intent. You know, am I against chickens in the city limits of Georgetown? There's too many variables and unknowns right now as far as enforcement. You know, we're gonna be looking at animal control, we're gonna be looking at code enforcement, but they're already strapped in what they've got to take care of. And so, and the mayor said, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, said, well, we'll have to figure it out. And that's one of the things that it's too big of an unknown to say, okay, let's go ahead with it. And then, you know, the horses run, we're gonna close the door and go, how are we gonna get back in? That's my thought behind that.
Mr. Menke?
But again, I think Todd's original conception of the ordinance was to be able to allow from an education component and to be able to foster what was really the intent. And the same is true, I think, with the horses because of the areas that we have that. So if you have that type of arrangement set up, whatever, then that's what would potentially be allowed, you know, because of, if the ordinance passes.
All right. Okay. All right. Any more new business?
I don't know if this could be considered new business, but I was wondering about the bluegrass ride, getting shelters.
Okay, so I'm going to take a stab at this, but I believe, and Karen is here, that you can help me address that. But I think we were trying to get funding for this. I think last year it was brought up, but I think we got in the mix with all, correct me, we got kind of in that mix of the cuts and all that, the funding with the federal government in. So I think right now we're not going to get that funding.
Well, we don't know yet. We submitted an application to the
Okay.
National Endowment for the Arts. When I checked on their website, they had the notice about the federal funding pause and how programs are under review to while they
Okay.
see if they're going to meet this current administration's new guidelines. They have fiscal year '24 awards posted, but no fiscal year '25 awards posted yet. So I'm operating under the assumption that that program is still under review, and so that's better than it's gone. So.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. So we're still going to be waiting on that. That's still maybe a possibility, but just, I guess, how it all shakes out. Thank you, ma'am. All right.
Got one more question.
Yes, ma'am. Go
Might
ahead.
not be new, just where the Amen House is, has anyone ever talked about getting sidewalks or sidewalk on?
Yeah, there had been,
The pedestrians, you know.
I believe not,
walking.
and I believe that there had been some conversation on that, but I don't know if there's any type of funding mechanism was put in place or that was part of their project. I'm not aware of that, and Debbie, I don't know if you can speak to that or if you know any information, because she's kind of been working with them on that.
So that was identified in the city engineer's budget as a potential project. It didn't make it into the budget.
Right.
It can, obviously, at the council's pleasure at any time, if we want to work that project in, that's something we can do, but knowing that those MAP funds are, you know, kind of limited, and knowing that we're gonna do the street assessment, we kind of said, let's do the street assessment and see what else remains, because you can do sidewalks with that funding. So if that's something that the council wants to do in the future. Obviously, there'd be some easement acquisition and some other issues to navigate, but certainly something that can be
I think we
discussed.
need to look into it, just because a lot of people walk there and it's very dangerous for pedestrians, but it's used a lot, so hopefully we can maybe get into it.
Will say too that I did, in speaking with the director there, ask her to see if there's any way she could kind of gather data to support that case. I think you can see it because it's just common sense. If you're driving by, you see enough walkers, but just to get information on how many of their patrons are, you know, accessing their services on foot, using the Bluegrass Ride service, and just kind of provide that data to the council so we can, you know, provide that to you and understand if that's a project you all want to add back in, but certainly. We do have cost estimates on it, and if you want more information, we can come back with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Paris Pike is not to say anything about the Amen House, but Paris Pike is very heavily foot traveled, and it's not really the safest, but you got those railroad trestles that you're not gonna be able to put a sidewalk under the railroad trestles, and that's the most dangerous part of it. And then when you get down to the creek, it's kind of dangerous there. The rest of it is kind of wide to be able to walk on, but still, it is a lot of foot traffic that people come from town, they work out on that end of town and go back and forth, walk out there to Walmart. And the bus pickup is actually right there in front of the shop. And every day there are people getting on and off that transit there that they'll walk out to that and then they'll get on and take them on into town, so.
And something when we're talking about transit, thank you for telling me that. As you all know, that you all got an email about the, and we want to thank the Bluegrass Transit here in town for making an exception since the Save-A-Lot issue occurred. They're going to actually put in some scheduled routes where they can be picked up at the Washington Street pickup there, and they will take them to Aldi's.
Yeah.
And then also out to Kroger's and so on. So I want to thank them for doing that and making those adjustments and, you know, and really helping out the community in such a timely fashion. All right.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just to comment on that, you know, since we are doing that change as a pilot to be able
See
to
if they can do it
accommodate,
permanent.
I'm wondering, can we make sure that they're collecting the data necessary to see whether or not that could become a permanent change, to provide additional options for residents, you know, as a normal circular route, not necessarily just from maybe Washington Street, but as part of their normal routing as well. Because there is medical facilities right
Yes.
there as well.
Wow.
So,
Excuse me, I'm writing this down. Thank you. Are there any other new business? All right, at this time, we have council comments, and I'm going to start with Ms. Brent.
The only comment I have is, I don't want to cry, but we're losing a lot with Chief Thompson. I'm happy for you because it's good for you and your family to retire, but I'm sad, disappointed that we're losing you because I was hoping we'd have that fire station for you and to see that smile on your face or whatever. But thank you for your service. Thank you for all you've done for this community. And just enjoy life when it comes. July the 31st comes. You'll be in my prayers, you and your family.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hampton.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Just to echo what Sandra said, Chief, I mean, it's been a pleasure, you know, to work with you on different things, and your service to the community is greatly appreciated over the years. So wish you the best of luck, and, you know, don't be a stranger. So. Also, Mayor, just, you know, on the Bluegrass Rides, just thank you for, you know, seeing that through and getting that done for everyone on the north side, so.
All right. And I'm going to give thanks to Devin, because she did the footwork. I just told her to do it. All right. Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Tim, for all you've done. And I know you've set everything up so that it'll run smoothly without you, and that's a sign of a good leader. So really do appreciate everything that you've done for the city.
Mr. Stone.
I remember when you started, you were, I won't go there, but congratulations. The 31st is not the best day. You got 2 great days coming. August 1st will be a great day. Everybody else gets up, go to work, you get to stay in bed. The next great day will be the 14th of the month. That's when retirement checks hit, trust me. Those are great days for you.
Well, luck like
congratulations. The only other thing I've got is I want to thank Seth Curtis and the Masonic Lodge No. 3. I attended their event this past Saturday. That is so underknown, the amount of history that they have in those halls. They have the Bible that started the chapters in Kentucky when it was part of Virginia. They have that Bible locked away. in some of the names that were started with this, and I called it a chapter, this lodge, I should say. You know, there was vice presidents, there was all kinds of different business leaders and politicians, and it was really powerful to be there and be a part of that. So I want to congratulate them on 225 years and wish them the best for another, as many more as they want to be there. So, and that's all I've got.
I attended that last year, and it is that. They got a lot of history, and they asked what they could do. I said, get the word out. Let people know what you do, and get into the community, because they do a lot of good things. So, all right. Ms. Hambrick.
Chief Allgood, my granddaughter, Ami Ray Kata, is here from Kenya and had an interest in the Junior Police Academy, and you nicely allowed her to be enrolled, and she really enjoyed her first day in the academy and looks forward to finishing out the week. So thank you for that program for everybody, but I have a specific thank you for her being in it. Godspeed, Chief Thompson. You've brought honor to your position and to the service to the city and the programs that you've expanded and the vision that you've had. And being on the fire committee in previous years, I saw how much leadership you brought to your position. So I know that you're going to unfold other things in your life that are going to be a blessing to our community. So thank you.
Mr. Mickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Tim, congratulations. I had the pleasure of working with Tim both from a public perspective as well as a private perspective in his various roles here at the city. And, true professionalism. So thank you for that, and truly looking out for what's best for the community with heart. And I know you've got lots of things that you've got your fingers in that are great things that will give you more time to spend with them and with your family. So take full advantage of it and enjoy it. The second item I have, Holden mentioned earlier tonight about the outreach programs that they have, and specifically mentioned the picnic with the planner that was this past week. I learned a lot from that, being able to sit down and have some conversations with subject matter experts from around the community. And going into that, I had a misconception of that we had certain historic designations, but they don't necessarily have any teeth and any real process. And so I think that's one of the things that we ought to take a look at to be able to provide a process and a mechanism to be able to truly access all the resources that are out there and available, both from a federal and a state perspective, and truly be able to preserve the history that we want to preserve as a community. So I think that's one of the things we need to have on our to-do list, and I look forward to helping with that. But I want to applaud Holden and his staff, because they truly are doing some very unique things that are considered best practices around the country in coming up with different ways to engage folks in different settings, because it is so critical. I know several of us were on the comp plan development, but one of the things I think that ends up happening, we all get so busy that we don't necessarily filter that information back to the organizations that maybe we're representing in those as effectively as we could, so that everybody's kind of on the same playing field. So I think that's one of the things we need to look at in addition is, how do we communicate? And how do we bring everybody up to speed on the programs and the approvals that we've already made and how we implement those?
So you're talking about the educational piece of it?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Ms. Sames?
The two ladies that came last week or last meeting that had the housing issue, did that ever get situated? Because they were here before, not the lady that spoke, but the lady that was with her, and I was just wondering if that was the same situation or what happened with that.
Go ahead. Devin took point on that.
Okay.
I know code enforcement was able to get on site and work with them and work with the maintenance staff at the facility to make sure that they were comfortable that everything was in line with code. So as far as I understand, that's closed. I haven't heard back from those women,
Okay.
but code enforcement was on site with the property management
Do you know
folks.
what their particular problem was that they had with it?
I think there were a number of
Okay.
issues they raised.
Okay.
But we were able to confirm that some of the property maintenance issues that were raised were addressed.
So they had legitimate issue, they were legitimate issues that they came for that code enforcement could help take care of some of them?
Some, yes. But code enforcement worked with them, and like I said, I'll confirm that this week, but my understanding is that there are no other outstanding issues.
Will you just send me an email? Because since that was the second time for that other lady, I was just concerned about that, was all.
Sure thing.
Okay, appreciate that. And then, thank you for the fire committee, so looking into the burn permit for Ward Hall in particular, the nonprofit that was asking for that. And to Tim, I think I kind of remember about the time that you were hired into the city. I think I kind of remember that, and which was quite some time ago. And I can't believe you're now thinking about retiring, but you have been standing strong in some shoes that were started in the one sitting beside you, and the city's really going to miss you. Your leadership, you led with grace and dignity in your leadership. So you have a legacy that you're leaving for the next one, and it's a strong legacy. And your daddy is looking at you now, and he is still so proud of you. So thank you for your service for the city, and thank you for getting to know your family so well.
All right. Last but not least, Mr. Chris.
All right. Two things. First off, a question for Tim. Now that you've heard all these nice things about you, do you regret your decision, and can you talk him into staying? In that case, would you like to amend any of the things you said?
All right.
So the second thing is growth continues to be a really big topic that we all get to discuss. And when Holden was here, he put on another great presentation. He and his whole staff are wonderful and very knowledgeable. We've had, probably you guys too, but I have a lot of people, a lot of residents reach out to me concerned about the livability of Georgetown and how we need to protect the residents from over density, for lack of a better word, with some of the neighborhoods. Here over the last few years, I don't know if a lot of people have noticed as much as we have, a lot of the newer homes by some of these developers and these builders, the garages are a little bit smaller than what they used to be. So then it's kind of hard to fit, two cars in a garage. Then you go out to the driveway, and the driveways are shorter nowadays with a lot of these newer neighborhoods too. So then that kind of puts you in the spot where now you have to park out on the street. Well, guess what? The streets are now a little bit more narrow. And when you put all this together and you think about emergency vehicles trying to get down these streets, and then you think about the safety issues of kids playing on the sidewalks in these congested, tight little cookie-cutter neighborhoods, hopefully we won't ever get to a situation where something really bad happens because of these incredibly dense new neighborhoods that keep getting built, and then we all have to deal with that and then kind of make changes at that point. So I really applaud everybody tonight for thinking as well about, the the residents and the community and putting them first, because that's who ultimately we work for, instead of trying to help developers put more houses in their, land plots and keep getting that situation going. So thank you for that, and that's just something I wanted to add to tonight.
All right. Again, thank you, each and every. If there's no other business to be brought before this council, this meeting is adjourned.